Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome back. Another Monday that we aim to maximize here for you. As you can see, a new guest. I have Marlane with me. Thank you so much for joining me this week.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for your patience also while I was experiencing some technical difficulties.
Absolutely glad we got it worked out and that we were able to have you on here. I've been looking forward to chatting with you. So, if you've watched the show, listened to the show, we usually kind of start off for what's going on in the world ahead and what's motivating me. So I usually talk about my Philly sports teams. They're all pretty much done now. So I have the Phillies left, and that's it. So baseball season's here. The rest of the sports are non-existent. Never was a fan. Never cared about any of those other teams. So just kind of going forward, looking into the summer, got some beach trips planned with my wife and daughter. A lot of stuff. My daughter is going to have her pre-K graduation soon, so we're ending daycare. So that's going to be kind of the focus these next few weeks here is just kind of making sure that everything we need to do to get her set up for kindergarten next year is set. So we have a lot of meetings, a lot of stuff. My wife and I are both trying to be pretty active this summer in terms of getting her ready. She's in good shape, but some basics still with numbers, letters, all that good stuff. So that's kind of the things motivating me the next few weeks is just kind of making sure she's in a good spot and comfortable and ready to go on to kindergarten. She's asking about it. She was mad at us the other night when we took her to the welcome to kindergarten event and had to leave. She wanted to stay. So all good signs. I hope she enjoys these next 13 years as much as that. We'll see. But so that's the motivators for me. In terms of goals, I've talked about the internship program that helping to work with at the company here now, and that kicks off next week. So I'm looking forward to kind of finalizing all those details, getting ready for some travel myself to go meet everyone and participating in the internship program. So very much looking forward to that. But kind of a goal is make sure that there's no loose ends to still tie up. And win from the week before is we did have two internships that we were still looking to fill, and we got them both filled by Friday. So it was a good end of the week to get those out. Very excited to have these prospective candidates, these college students joining us for the summer to get some career experience here before they graduate. So very much looking forward to that. So that's my week. That's what's going on. Marlane, what's going on in your world this week?
It's actually really similar to what you have going on. I also have a daughter, and she's going to be finishing fourth grade. And so she's getting ready to go to fifth grade, her last year of elementary school. And so that's really exciting. And she also is, I mean, of course, she's looking forward to the summer, but she's also really looking forward to fifth grade. So that's a really good sign.
Yeah.
And I also have an intern also who her internship already came to an end, but I'm really happy that she wants to continue. Even though her semester of college is already finished, she wants to stay until June. So I think that's also a really good sign.
Mhm.
And I'm looking forward to getting more interns also.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I've really enjoyed being a part of that process this year. A little bit more involvement than last year, and I'm looking to build off of that. So it's really fun to just kind of see all the different majors that there are and how ambitious people are. Look back at my own college career, and sometimes I'm talking to students who are freshmen, sophomore, and I had no clue to do any of this when I was a freshman and sophomore in college. So to see that now is very inspiring and awesome to see. Um, so you and I connected, just kind of chatting about, your career in education, your career in journalism, and how you're kind of now exploring other opportunities, seeing what else is out there, while at the same time holding on to those roots and making sure that what you loved about being in journalism and loved about being an educator are still always going to be a part of you. So, as you're kind of looking to explore new opportunities, what would you say are some of the things that you've enjoyed about both careers that you want to make sure as you look to opportunities that these are still going to be a key part of the responsibilities and the things that you get to do in your day to day?
Yeah, so I'll start with my first job when I was a multimedia journalist for my university. And probably my favorite part about that job is that I got to do a lot of different things in journalism. I wrote for the newspaper, but then I also co-anchored a webcast.
Nice.
And it was a really good first experience. I also was introduced into photography. And it was really exciting because at that point of the university, it was a university and a college, a community college together.
Okay.
And so when I started, that's how it was. It was the University of Texas at Brownsville slash Texas Southmost College. And then it separated during my time there. And it was really exciting that I got to cover that. So I saw the separation of the Texas Southmost College and the University of Texas at Brownsville. And then, so University of Texas at Brownsville was by itself, but then it merged with another university about an hour away with the University of Pan American. And then it merged into the University of Texas at Rio Grande Valley, which is where it's at right now.
Okay.
And I was just really glad that I got to cover all of that. I got to interview the university president and other officials like that. It was really exciting.
Hmm.
And then once I graduated, and also during my time at the University of Texas at Brownsville, I got to intern at a local TV station. And so that's when I was first introduced to TV journalism, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And as soon as I graduated, I did apply for a job there. Unfortunately, I didn't get it. So then I went to my second love of teaching.
Hmm.
And so I taught students with special needs, which was something that was always really close to me.
Yeah.
And it really just gave me a really unique perspective into diversity because
Hmm.
I had students with Down syndrome, I had students with autism, and it was just a really unique experience to work with them at their different levels. And then once I was there for about 2 years, and then there was another opportunity at the TV station to become a reporter. And so that was something I always wanted to do. So I left teaching to do that, and I loved it. It was a really good experience. I was there for almost 3 years, but
Yeah.
then I really started missing teaching. I started missing, really the students with special needs. So then
Right.
I went back to teaching students with special needs, and then the pandemic happened, and so that really had an effect on me.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed teaching during the pandemic. I really enjoyed teaching remotely,
Hmm.
and my students really liked it too because they, like I said, they had special needs, and so they actually really needed to learn life skills, and so it was a really good experience for them to see me doing life skills like washing the dishes, and then I would get to watch them wash the dishes,
Hmm.
and then taking care of pets. I would do it, and then they would do it, and so I really loved it.
Yeah.
And then we went back in person, and I got moved to another part of special education, which was students with like math and reading disabilities.
Hmm.
And I started working more with students who didn't have severe disabilities, and I really liked it. So then I had the opportunity to teach journalism, high school journalism. And it was a challenging but really fun experience.
Sure.
Obviously, the students, the pandemic also had a really profound impact on them.
Right.
And I know a lot of teachers will say that they kind of changed.
Hmm.
And I mean, I had never before the pandemic, I never worked with regular ed kids. So, I mean, I wasn't really sure what the change was.
Hmm.
But I did notice that they, I guess they were different from when I was in high school. But
Yeah.
then I started listening to them more. And what they were saying really made a lot of sense. And it was kind of different than what principal, I mean, I know it's the principal's job to tell us that you have to teach bell to bell.
Right.
And so that's what I was trying to do when I first started. And I noticed that the students, they were really overwhelmed and they expressed that.
Yeah.
And it was also, we had this pressure to kind of have them like not talk a lot. It was all like teacher centered and it was all lecturing.
Yeah.
And I noticed that the students really they had a hard time with that too. And so it was challenging at first, but then again, I listened to them, and I remember a student told me, she's like, "Ma'am, like this is the only class where we get to talk, and that's why we talk." And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. So then
Right.
I was like, how can I use, what they're going through right now in a way that would benefit them? So that's when I started saying, like, hey guys, you like talking? Let's start recording yourself. Let's start doing interviews. You interview your other students. Let's start doing videos. And because I was a yearbook teacher also, I was like, you guys, you use your communication skills to go and take photos of people. And so then once that started, I saw a huge transformation in the students that I really, it was inspiring.
Yeah.
I saw students who I guess like they weren't really interested in school. They weren't interested in school activities. They would come in late. But then once I gave them the opportunity to use that camera, they were so enthusiastic. Like, unfortunately, I only had 3 cameras and I had about 30 students, and all of them wanted to use it. So they would have to take turns But again, it was just so exciting to see students like not interested in anything except taking pictures. And they took really good pictures. And then there was also some of the students, like I said, who were doing interviews, and to see their personalities come out, it was just it was so exciting and I loved it.
Yeah.
But it did leave me with missing journalism again. So
Right.
then I went back full time into TV news reporting, and it was the same station. It was channel 23 in Brownsville, but it merged with another competing station, channel 4 in Harlingen. And so it was a really different experience than when I was reporting in Brownsville.
Mm.
And so I kind of really noticed that, like, hey, I think live TV news reporting is not really my thing. So then I started producing commercials at the TV station, which was kind of like my first introduction into public relations. And so it was different. Like as a TV news reporter, I kind of like had to do a lot of crime, a lot of murders, and it
Right.
was it was sad.
Yeah.
And but then once I started doing commercials, it was a lot more positive, and I really liked it.
Okay.
And so that's when I decided to go into public relations, and I got my first public relations job at the Cameron County District Attorney's Office.
Mm.
And that's where I'm at right now. And I'm really just I'm enjoying exploring the public relations field. I invested in my own gear, my own camera, my own tripod, microphone, and editing software. And
Yeah.
so I'm starting to just like do a lot more of that, a lot more like positive social media stories. And I'm enjoying it. And I'm just trying to learn more about that, more about like content creation and social media marketing. And it's been a fun journey.
Yeah. Yeah. It looks like it from what I've seen you share and everything like that. So last week I had a guest on Madison who came from the music industry and then became a teacher. And so, a unique perspective like you're about to offer in terms of having this experience in journalism and in multimedia before both instances of going into the classroom. So, what were some of the things I normally when I have transitioned educators on, they're talking about, how they took their skills from the classroom and applied it into the role that they're in now. But I like to kind of look at that from the different angle now that you can offer in terms of what were some of the things that you took from being in journalism into the classroom with you that you thought really helped you, engage with the students and get them to engage with you.
Yeah, so those journalism skills really came in handy when I was teaching remote. I
Mhm.
had to really, I mean, I would even put on costumes. I would use my stuffed animals to keep my students' attention.
Yeah.
And so I guess like that dynamic on-air personality really had to come through when I was working remote.
Yeah.
And then when I came in person, it was the same thing. Like I had to be, uh, even though when I was teaching journalism, a lot of my students they didn't have special needs. A few did. I still had to do a lot to get their attention, keep their attention. And then, of course, once I started teaching them my skills, that's when it really came in handy. I'm like, oh, okay, guys, you're doing a great job. Just practice a little more, stand this way, just little things like that, showing them how to use it, and of course showing them the camera. And I know it's really corny, but they taught me a lot too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I remember when I first started trying to teach them the ways of journalism, I was like, and I'm kind of embarrassed to admit this right now, but I guess it shows growth. I would tell them, I'm like, hey guys, like, when you're doing news, you want to look at mugshots, you want to look at Brownsville PD. And some of the students, like, they liked it. They were like, oh, yeah, like, that's funny. Of course, unfortunately, mugshots get a lot of attention. But then I had the few sensitive students that were like, ma'am, like, I don't think that's right. And I
Yeah.
was like, it changed my thinking. And ever since then, I was like, I'm not doing mugshots anymore.
Mhm.
Like, I still have my professional news reporter page. I deleted all the mugshots.
Okay.
And then I had another student, I was telling them also, I'm like, guys, what makes a really good story is if you see emotion, if you see somebody crying, you go and you film that emotion. And then again, another student says, they're like, ma'am, like, I don't think that's right. If somebody's crying and they don't have permission, I don't think you should do that. And I was like, that's really good. And then when I went back to reporting, I brought that with me. I was like, I'm not going to post mugshots. And I'm not going to film people without their permission if they're crying and going through a traumatic experience. And yeah, I know it's not really, that's bad advice for a TV journalist. I remember one of the murders that I covered, um, I was able to see like one of the victims, and there was other competing stations there, and I was talking to her, but I didn't have my camera out, and the the victim's family member left. And then another reporter came up to me and she was like, "Why weren't you filming her?" She was like, "That was your shot." And I was like, "No, like she didn't want to be on camera." And the competing reporter said, "It doesn't matter, you just film them." And I
Yeah.
was like, "No, like I just don't do that anymore," which is, I guess is another reason why I left the news industry.
Yeah.
And right now, my job as a public information officer for a Cameron County District Attorney, we do a lot of crime, obviously. And so that sensitivity, I use it when I talk to when people call me
Mhm.
the residents. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, the Cameron County residents, like most of the time when they call me, it's for it's not good news. It's, hey, I got charged with this, I need a dismissal. And so I always try to be really sensitive and compassionate. Even if I'm super busy, I'm like, I'm gonna stop what I'm doing and give them the attention that they need because they're probably going through something really traumatic.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So you're in public relations now, but you've still, and I've seen this throughout the things that you're sharing on LinkedIn, you're still kind of keeping that engagement and that connection to the classroom, to the students, giving back. I know you recently went and delivered a speech and everything like that. And your messages have been just kind of a big source of positivity and showing that support for educators. And I think that's something that we all kind of hold on to. It was 9 years ago that I left the classroom, but I still go back and do mock interviews and stuff like that, just ways to continue that connection. So, for you being such a strong advocate for those still in the classroom and in administration, walk me through that importance for you, going into public relations, but then saying, this is something that I want to do to still be able to keep my education close to me and give back to the students.
Yes, I totally forgot about that. We do actually at my office, we have an education outreach specialist. So he's the one that mostly goes into the community and the classrooms to teach them. But when he's not available, sometimes he's double booked. That's when I go. And
Okay.
that's when I do use those skills. And that was something that I had posted one time on LinkedIn where in the same day I had to teach a lesson about crime to
Mhm.
students from pre-kinder all the way to sixth grade.
Yeah.
And so luckily I actually something that I forgot to mention is I was a pre-K aide for about like 6 months. And so when I was with those pre-K students, I kept that in mind. I was like, okay, remember they're in pre-K.
Mhm.
So instead of using words like, oh, if you're a victim of a crime, reach out, I'll say, I was using more language like this. Oh, guys, if somebody hurts you, you go to mommy or daddy or grandma or teacher or somebody who you feel safe around. I was using words like that. And then as they got older, I still just, kept changing the language, keeping their age in mind.
Mhm.
And also taking, something as serious as crime and bullying and putting it to those levels. I also used cartoon images and stuff like that,
Mhm.
and then also trying to keep their attention. I wanted to keep it fast, and I was again using a lot of body language, especially with the little ones. I was like, "Hey guys, so if somebody hurts you, you remember, you go to mommy and daddy."
Mhm.
And so I keep that in mind. And I
Yeah.
actually went to that same private school where it was the same thing. It was the little ones all the way to sixth grade. So once again, I had to change my language and use things also that would incentives like the pencils and the stickers and the candy. Like,
Right.
hey guys, do you remember me? I was at your school 2 weeks ago. Who can tell me what who remembers what I told you all about? Raise your hand, things
Mhm.
like that, and you'll get a candy.
Yeah.
And so I really just wanted to let them know I'm like, our office is really important because we're the ones who get justice for victims of crime. But
Yeah.
of course, I didn't use those words when it was
Right.
the little ones, but I did use it for the sixth graders.
Okay. All right. Now you also got to do a career day recently, and given that you've worn so many different hats now in your career, when you go into those types of things, and students are so inquisitive and they have so much they want to know about what you do. So, what are some of the things that you try to break down for them, given that you have different experiences, so that they get insight into a few different fields as opposed to maybe just one directly that you're a part of?
Yeah, so when I go out there, like I'm like, oh, I want them to know about my career. And I told them that. I'm like, yes, I have a camera here because and also that was one thing I told the pre-K students. I don't say I'm a public relations person. I say I was like, I'm the camera lady. And so I tell them, I'm like, what's more important than what I do? I was like, is what the office does. That's one thing, I guess, working there, I see all the crime and the suffering that my people go through.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, I want to help them. So to be honest, that's like the number one thing. And I was like, I want them to know. And I'll tell them, I'm like, yes, it's exciting, cameras, so fun. I was
Right.
like, but what's really important is that nobody's allowed to hurt you.
Yeah.
That's like the number one thing when I go out there. And then I'm like, yes, cameras, fun, but nobody can hurt you because I see so much violence.
Yeah.
And another thing that I would like to talk about is, unfortunately, I have seen some of my students get arrested, and that's just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Students that you would never expect. I've seen athletes, quarterback of the football team, and a student who also, like, he had his associates while he was in high school, and he still got arrested.
Mhm.
And it was drug related, and so that just broke my heart. And so also when I go into those high schools, I'm like, guys, like more important than what I'm doing is, please, like, don't go to jail. I see a lot of students going to jail. I see a lot of violence. Please don't do it. So
Yeah.
I guess like that's just the number one thing when I go out there is trying to help them.
Yeah.
And then I go into the careers like, hey, yes, I was a teacher, let's do something positive instead. But
Yeah.
more important than anything, stay away from drugs and violence.
Right. Yeah. Great. Great. Now, beyond the students, sometimes I'm sure you get questions from people who are curious about getting into public relations and getting that start in their career. So, when they come to you, what are some of the things that go into your day to day that sometimes can surprise them that they don't really think of? Oh, this is something that you're responsible for with NPR, because it's not just sending out branding messages. There's so much that goes into it. So, what are some of those things that usually catch people as I didn't even know that you did this.
They get shocked when I tell them that really the most important part of my job, and the part of my job that I do every single day, is talking with law enforcement, and mostly the FBI. The FBI is the one who I talk to every single day without fail. It, and yeah, people get shocked, like, what? Why? Like, that's scary.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. And then also, of course, I can't give any details or I'll get arrested.
Right.
But I'm like, the FBI asked me about people.
Yeah.
And yeah, people get really shocked. Even I'm still shocked when it happens.
I'm sure.
But
Yeah.
it's like, it's just part of the job.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
and really that's the my current job, it's the most important thing. Like, it's like I do that first. It's the number one most important thing because it's legal stuff.
Yeah.
And then once I finish with that very important legal stuff, then I do the cameras and the editing. And the good thing is that I have 10 business days to respond, or I get a response from the attorney general. And
Mhm.
thank God that has never happened to me. I always, as soon as I get a public information request, I try to answer immediately.
Yeah.
Like, and if not, I'll take maybe 1 to 2 days, the most, 3 the most, if I'm really busy.
Mhm.
And yeah, so that's really good. I could tell the law enforcement officials, they really appreciate it because I don't take those 10 days. I'm
Yeah.
like, no, let's just get it out of the way now so I can do the fun stuff like cameras
Right. Yeah.
and videos and editing.
Yeah, let's kind of talk about that a little bit, since content creation is kind of an important part of what you do, and it's usually one of those fields that a lot of people in education look to as things that they might want to do next is getting into writing and graphic design, stuff like that. And it's kind of the field that there's so many different paths that you can take. And so for you, as someone who creates a lot of visual and a lot of written content, what's some of the advice that you give to people wanting to get started, especially when it comes to like putting together that portfolio that they're going to need to start getting jobs in the field.
Yeah, so that's what I like to tell my intern. I would say, because sometimes I have had a couple of people message me and be like, hey, any advice? And I'm like, you're probably already doing really good work taking photos. I was like, just put it out there.
Hmm.
And I remember one person was like, oh, but like, isn't that kind of like you're showing off or something? And I'm like, no, I don't think so. I think I'm like, you work hard and you're just expressing yourself. I was like, I don't think there's any shame in showing off your really hard work. So I
Right.
would say that I was like, I'm 100% sure they're already doing the really good work. So just put it out there. And then I also would like to share some advice about the affordable equipment I have. I
Yeah.
got a Canon camera with like a whole set of flash. a tripod and other little mini tripods for $700. I know it's a lot, but I mean, for a really good camera that records and takes photos, and then with all the equipment, I was like, I think it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
And then the laptop that I have was only like $200, and because I know not all laptops can handle like really good editing software. So then I got one that I knew my laptop could handle. My laptop is a Microsoft Surface, and again, it was like $200. And so I got the editing software Filmora,
Okay.
and it was $50 a year. I got a deal on it, and I think it's really pretty good. When I was at the TV station, I use Adobe Premiere. Obviously, it's like the best,
Yeah.
but Filmora is really not that bad. I don't see it that different from Adobe Premiere, and it's way cheaper. So I
Hmm.
would say, invest in those things that are not that expensive compared to other products out there, and
Okay.
it's really worth it. And then at the office that I work at, somebody loaned me some lights, and that just completely changed the look of what I'm recording. So as soon
Mhm.
as I have enough money, he said his likes were $70. I'm like, oh, that's not that much. So, next payday, I'll get that. And I'll also be showing, like, sharing the huge difference that lights make.
Yeah.
So just like slowly investing in little products like that, and then practicing every single day. That's why I said also, I'm like, I try to get those PR requests out right away so then I can start practicing. So I would do that. Like everywhere you go, I tell people also, my intern, I'm like, take pictures. Of course, I mean, you want to get permission.
Right.
Take pictures, post it out there, practice, do it as much as you can.
Okay. That's
And yeah, again, that's what I'm doing. I'm like, I'm
yeah.
trying to record everything and edit everything
Yeah. Yeah. And you share a lot of
and
great.
then put it out there.
Yeah, and it's awesome to see because you give a glimpse into all the different moving parts that there are in your day to day. And that's actually a perfect segue to my final question here. You've already shared some of the advice in terms of the PR aspect, the content creation, but as someone who's pivoted careers, I'm sure you get the question a lot, especially having an intern and they ask you for career advice and things like that. So when someone comes to you and says, what insight can you share to me? What is that piece of advice that you either lean on a lot as this is kind of what has worked for me, or a piece of advice that you got that always kind of you fall back to because it helped you as you were looking for those different opportunities along the way?
Yeah, I remember one piece of advice. I got a lot of advice, but probably one that I think was really smart, and I see it now. And I used to not follow this advice, and I'm not perfect with it either. Is don't burn bridges.
Hmm.
I remember when I started TV reporting, and I was young. I was like 26 years old, and I just had it in my head. I was taught like be really, really aggressive, and so I took aggressive as kind of like not being nice.
Right.
And so, yeah, sometimes if things didn't go my way, I would act like a diva and I would get upset and I would show that. And I remember one former reporter told me, like, don't do that, don't burn your bridges. And I was like, oh, I don't care, I'm gonna burn my bridges. But I left reporting and I was trying to get PR jobs, even though I had the skills, some people like they might have had an unpleasant experience with me. And it was a little bit hard.
Yeah.
And so then I kept that in mind. And then finally I started practicing it. I started, learning that everybody's working, they're going through a hard time. If things don't go my way, it's because they're busy. It's nothing personal.
Right.
And so when I went back, I finally started feeling that way, I guess, when I was a journalism teacher. My students also helped me with that too. They were just kind of like, hey, there's no reason to be mean and yell. And so it was really helpful, like just to talk to people and be open and understanding instead of assuming and pointing the finger. And so when I went back into reporting, I took that with me. I was like really patient. Like let's say I had an interview with somebody at 1:30 and then it was like 1:45. And like before I would be like, why are you keeping me waiting? And this time they were like, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm like, hey, it's okay, no worries.
Yeah.
And then a couple of those people, they were like, hey, by the way, if we're ever hiring, we're going to keep you in mind. And I was like, oh, that's good. And
Nice.
I'm not saying, of course, to be a doormat or anything, but, I don't think it's necessary to be super aggressive and loud and opinionated and stuff like that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so I would say that, like, I guess just be kind and patient with as many people as possible. Again, that doesn't mean like to take abuse or anything,
Right.
but just be as kind as you can. I guess especially with students and parents and people who are victims of crime.
Yeah,
stuff
absolutely.
like that. And then I guess the other thing, like I said, besides don't burn your bridges, is practice and put yourself out there
Yeah.
and get inspiration from other people. A lot of people inspire me, like especially on LinkedIn, and
Mhm.
people who I know who just like really put themselves out there, like self promotion. I really like that, and I feel like it works. I've seen a quote before that says, "If you don't promote yourself, nobody else will." So I
Right.
was like, you know, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah. Awesome. So, well, Marlene, I'm so appreciative you taking the time to jump on here with me. If you're not already connected, following, make sure you're doing that. Hopefully our paths will cross again in the future here. For everyone listening and watching, thanks so much for taking some time out of your week to listen to Marlene's story, and we hope you have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you for your time.